The poor janitor's daughter wasn't crippled. And only the CEO noticed. The lobby of Dalton Enterprises was silent after midnight. The polished marble floors reflected the faint glow of security lights, and the sound of a mop echoed like thunder in the emptiness. Miguel Alvarez, the janitor, moved quietly, his tired eyes scanning every corner. To anyone watching, he was just another invisible worker, blending into the shadows of the skyscraper. But tonight, something unusual broke the silence. A soft tap, tap, tap of small footsteps behind him. Miguel spun around, heart racing. And there, in the middle of the grand lobby where she should not have been standing, was his daughter, Sophia. She wasn't in her wheelchair. Her tiny legs trembled, her arms stretched for balance, but she was walking. Walking on the same marble floor where everyone believed she could never take a step. Miguel's breath caught, tears filling his eyes. "Sophia, sit down. Someone might see." But before she could answer, the sharp click of high heels echoed from the glass doors. The new CEO, Eleanor Hayes, had just entered the building. Her eyes fell instantly on Sophia. And in that frozen moment, Miguel realized the secret he had carried for years was no longer his alone. For most people at Dalton Enterprises, Miguel Alvarez was invisible. Employees in tailored suits passed him daily, hardly noticing the bent figure pushing a mop or carrying a bucket. He had worked in this skyscraper for 15 years, through layoffs, renovations, and 3 different CEOs. He never complained, never caused trouble, and always wore a humble smile. But behind that smile was a father carrying a heavy secret. Every evening, after polishing the last marble tile, Miguel wheeled a chair across the lobby. In it sat Sophia, his 12-year-old daughter with dark curls and luminous eyes. She greeted him with a grin, as if she hadn't just waited hours for him to finish his shift. Most employees pitied the sight. The poor janitor with his crippled daughter. Some whispered it behind their coffee cups, others offered fake smiles of sympathy. But none of them knew the truth. Sophia wasn't crippled. She could walk, slowly, painfully, with trembling legs, but she could. The wheelchair was a disguise. A shield. And Miguel carried that deception every single day, because it was the only way his daughter could receive treatment. Dalton Enterprises offered free insurance for employees' families, but only under certain conditions. A permanent disability qualified. Rehabilitation for weak legs did not. So Miguel let the world believe his daughter was paralyzed. He bore the pity, the stares, the whispered judgments, all so Sophia could continue therapy and dream of walking freely one day. It broke his heart to watch her sit in that chair, pretending. But it was the only way. Eleanor Hayes was not like her predecessors. She was young for a CEO, barely in her 30s, and had worked her way up from an ordinary background. Unlike the boardroom sharks who once ran Dalton Enterprises, Eleanor noticed things. On her second week as CEO, she stayed late to review contracts. Walking through the lobby, she spotted Miguel pushing Sophia toward the exit. Something about the girl's eyes stopped her. They weren't the eyes of someone defeated, they sparkled with fight. That night, when Miguel bent to tie his shoelace, Eleanor froze in shock. Sophia rose carefully from the chair and took 2 shaky steps forward. Eleanor's breath caught. She can walk. Before Miguel could see her, Sophia sat back down. But Eleanor had seen enough. She went home restless. Her mind replayed the scene again and again. Why would a father pretend his daughter was crippled? What kind of burden forced a man into such deception? She needed to know. The next evening, Eleanor waited in the shadows of the lobby. She watched as Miguel finished mopping, then walked to his daughter. When he turned away, Sophia again rose from her chair, wobbling but determined. This time, Eleanor stepped forward. "You're very brave, Sophia," she said softly. The girl froze. Miguel whipped around, his face drained of color. "Ma'am, please, his voice trembled. She's not. Eleanor raised a hand gently. I know. And I'm not here to punish you. Tears welled in Miguel's eyes. His secret, carried for years, was finally out. His hands shook as he tried to explain. My daughter, she wasn't born crippled. She had an illness when she was little. It weakened her muscles. The doctors said with therapy she might walk again, but the costs. I could never afford them. Then I learned the company's insurance covered disabilities. If I let them believe she was permanently broken, she could get help. His voice cracked. So I lied. Every day, I lied. I took the shame, the pity, the whispers. Because her future mattered more than my dignity. Eleanor's throat tightened. She had seen greed, arrogance, and selfishness in the corporate world. But this? This was pure, selfless love. She knelt by Sophia's chair and smiled gently. And how long have you been practicing? Sophia whispered, her eyes wide, 3 years. Someday, I'll run, Miss Hayes. Someday. Eleanor's heart ached. She saw herself in that little girl, fighting for a dream no one believed in. The next morning, Eleanor called an emergency board meeting. The directors, all gray-haired men in suits, looked at her with suspicion. Why this urgency, Ms. Hayes? One asked. Eleanor's voice was steady. We need to expand our healthcare program. No more limited categories. No more loopholes. Every employee's child deserves treatment, whether it's covered under disability or not. The room erupted. Impossible. The costs, this isn't charity, it's business. But Eleanor stood firm. Dalton Enterprises makes billions in profit. If we cannot spare a fraction to protect the families who build this company, then we are not a business, we are parasites. And I refuse to lead a parasite. Her fire silenced them. For the first time in company history, compassion outweighed greed. The motion passed. Miguel's secret was no longer necessary. Months later, Dalton Enterprises hosted its annual gala. Employees filled the ballroom, gossiping about bonuses and promotions. But the highlight came when Eleanor stepped onto the stage with Miguel and Sophia beside her. Tonight, she began, we celebrate not numbers or profits, but people. This company is nothing without its workers, and their families. The spotlight fell on Sophia. The audience gasped as the girl slowly rose from her wheelchair. Her legs wobbled, her face burned with effort, but she took one step. Then another. And another. Gasps turned to applause. Applause turned to tears. Miguel wept openly, covering his face with his hands. Eleanor placed a steady hand on Sophia's shoulder, her voice carrying through the hall. This child is walking today not because of wealth or privilege, but because of a father's love, and the chance to be seen. How many other Sophias are out there, waiting for someone to believe in them? From today, Dalton Enterprises will never let a family carry such a burden alone. The room erupted in thunderous applause. For the first time in years, Miguel felt his dignity return. His secret was no longer shame, it was triumph. Word spread quickly. Newspapers didn't write about profits that week. They wrote about the janitor's daughter who walked across a stage, and the CEO who noticed what no one else did. Parents across the city wrote letters of gratitude. Employees whispered Eleanor's name with respect. And Miguel, he walked to work each day no longer invisible, but honored. Sophia continued her therapy, stronger with each passing month. Soon, she didn't need the chair at all. And every time she walked, she carried not just her father's sacrifice, but the kindness of a woman who refused to look away. Sometimes the greatest acts of heroism don't come from power, money, or titles. They come from the courage of a father willing to bear shame for his child, and the heart of a leader willing to notice what others ignore. Because when compassion meets courage, miracles happen. And sometimes, all it takes, is someone to truly see.